Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the Hager number BB1541, 3.5x3.5 US 32D stainless steel hinge. I have one removed here from the packaging, and we'll take a closer look at it right now. So this is, for all intents and purposes, a relatively simple and straightforward hinge. It happens to be 3.5x3.5. It's residential weight. It is square corner. It has a template pattern on the screw holes, except a couple of things allow it to deviate from very common residential hinges. That would be, number one, the fact that it's made of stainless steel. Number two, that it's ball bearing. So a hinge like this is very commonly going to be used in instances where you have a heavier door. Let's say that you have in a residential project, you can do common, hollow core doors. Well, you could also do flush solid core doors. You could do solid core panel doors as well. Those doors are certainly a lot heavier than a hollow core door. And if you have an application that your door takes several uses or cycles a day, garage door, the common door that will get you into, maybe the basement where everyone heads to immediately, you'll certainly want a ball bearing hinge. So it deviates in the sense that most residential hinges are certainly not ball bearing, but you would be well advised to consider a ball bearing hinge because of how much more substantially capable they are in terms of a healthy and long-lasting proper operation of the door itself. The other thing that deviates, of course, is that fact that it's made of solid stainless and that it's in a satin finish. So people rarely will order a solid stainless hinge because it's substantially more expensive than a steel-based hinge. And they'll do so either for the reason that they want and have to have the brushed actual stainless finish, which is what you see here, or they have an application where they need something as corrosion resistant as possible. So it's either one of the two. Rarely do people spend the substantial amount of additional money when it's just for the look of stainless, because satin nickel and satin chrome, for that matter, while they are certainly different, they're not wholly different. And when you consider the cost could be 25% of what this costs, you do need to take a look at that, or at least maybe half. Let's say a ball bearing hinge is probably going to be about half in a steel base. So probably an environment where you've got some coastal application, potential for moisture, certainly. Now the ball bearing aspect, you can do this as a 1541, which is just plain bearing, 5 knuckles. This is the BB for ball bearing. It has 2 bearing packets here. I can personally attest to over a 20-year period of a door that's hung on standard plain bearing hinges will exhibit substantial wear and tear on the hinge knuckles. The door will sag, it will lean into the opening, it will possibly hit at the upper lock side corner of the door. The latch bolt may not enter the hole in the strike correctly. The door may drag on the carpeting. As a result of that, the usage on the door will get potentially more abusive, that sort of thing. The door doesn't work, so we're pulling on it harder. That could work to weaken the screws that hold everything together on the hinge. And while it's certainly true ball bearing hinges cost more than plain bearing, if you expect to be the benefactor of the healthy operation of the door years down the road, you would be well served to order ball bearing hinges. If not on all the doors, at least on doors that will take substantial higher volume. That garage door to the house will be different than the linen closet up on the second floor. So maybe select those strategically. Then it's not nearly a significant thought in terms of the overall cost. This is square corner. That's BB1541. You can order this as an RC BB1541, and that will get you a radiused corner. You can also do this, I think, as an RC BB 1842 might be the number. We'll check. That will give you a 5/8 radius, whereas the RC BB1541 is a 1/4 inch radius. This hinge is going to include screws. They're probably a number 8 by 3/4. These are what are called fly cut screws. There's a feature right at the tip of my finger where that unusual prep on the tip of the screw, that clears the material as the screw goes in and forms threads. Those are a benefit when you're using automated machinery that may not be pre-drilling the holes, even though I expect that they are. But a fly cut screw serves to not split the door and frame, is what the purpose of those are. Okay, sold per each. When you buy one, we'll ship you one. Hinges are generally not sold per the quantity that they can fit into a box or in pairs. Hinges are needed usually in multiples of 3. You know, you need either 3 or 6 or 9, etc. Rarely do you need 2 or 4 or 8 or, 10, things of that nature. So pair and a half is typical on a door, but to eliminate the confusion as to how they're sold, we just sell them as each. If you need 3, order 3. Now there is some supporting documentation down below. Let's switch to the screen view and take a closer look. Okay, so here is the item that we are looking at. Extended description down below. Sold in multiples of 2, even though they're priced as each. You can buy an odd number, so don't worry about that. Reach out to us and we'll help you with an order for an odd number rather than multiples of 2. All right, let's take a look here now. 3.5, 3.5. That's important because the height is the first dimension on hinges. The width is the second dimension. Why is it important to know that? Because not every hinge is square. You could have a 4 by 3.5. You could have a 5 by 8. It's important to know that in those two sizes I just mentioned, the height is the first dimension. 0.85 is the material thickness. Putting a caliper on the hinge leaf, my caliper tells me that it's 0.087, so that's what my caliper says. There are 6 holes in this hinge total. When it's a 3.5 by 3.5, that's common, or a 3.5 inch tall hinge. Square corners with a removable pin. You can drive that pin out. It's very common to separate the leaves when you're hanging the doors and then bringing the doors to the frames and then dropping the pins down to swing the door. 5 knuckle. I said a number 8. It's really a number 9. Okay. Now there are links over here. Let's take a look at the template. The template is very handy because it will show you on your BB1541 your 0.85 square corner. I did say RC BB1842 is what I said, and I was wrong. You want an RC BB1542. That would be a stainless base with a 5/8 radius. I had said 1842. That's a steel base hinge. So square corner, 1/4 inch radius, 5/8 radius. BB1541, RC BB1541, RC BB1542. The location of these screw holes are considered a template pattern. This document is called a template. The location of the holes is also referred to as the template pattern. It's a standardized location regardless of who the manufacturer of the door and frame are or the other hinge. If they've manufactured the material to the template pattern, this hinge would be compliant and compatible with those locations for the holes. If you're not sure, print this out and take it with you to the door along with a tape measure and verify. Steel base column here and here. Square corner, 1/4 inch radius, 5/8 radius. Okay. Now there's nothing on here that tells us the difference between the 8641 and the RC 1641, and I don't know either. I don't recall from memory what that is. However, the product catalog here should help us be able to review all of the different hinge types offered from Hager, where you should be able to review those. I know that I had said 8641 or RC 1641 and an 8641. Let's take a look. 1641. Here it is. There's a 1641 and then an 8641. Oh, okay, so there it is. So it's going to be obviously a different pattern on the holes, but the issue is on the 3.5 inch, there's only going to be 3 holes in it. That's a plain bearing hinge. Non-template on the 4x4. The RC 1641 is an assembled hinge, but if you're a pre-hanger, you'll order boxes of 100, 8641 is what you'd probably order. So the RC1641, let's see if we can find a template that shows us what that looks like. Okay, so it's not in my catalog at all, and that could be because it is potentially discontinued. We'll take a closer look at that in a moment. But other hinges on here will serve towards helping us understand what the differences are. RC BB1542, that's a 5/8 radius. We talked about that earlier. 1847, 5/8 radius by square corner, 4x4. You get the point. The product catalog is very helpful, allowing us to determine what we are working with. The data sheet is nothing other than a one-page tear-out showing the overview, the general overview, and this really isn't even, this is not the RC, the BB1541. It's just a plain bearing hinge. Plain bearing is the term we use when it's non-ball bearing. Okay. Now that link here to the manufacturer's page within the site, that will allow you to review not only all of the Hager products that we sell, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the full product catalog. Other documents that are on here would be the ADA Standards for Accessible Design. This is the federal publication as it relates to creating accessible public spaces, whether it be restrooms, parking lots, things of that nature. That applies to Hager because Hager makes hinges. And there is a lot of language in here regarding the minimum clear opening in a door frame. And if you don't provide that, you would be in violation of the federal law if it's a public space. And Hager sells hinges that will allow or help you do that. Those are called swing clear hinges. Also thresholds, they're ramps. That's all governed by a specific relationship between rise and run, how tall an overall height of a threshold can be, what that slope can be on a ramp. It's all governed in this document. So if you're doing any work where they're referring to, you know, grab bars, for goodness sakes, that's all in here as well. So very helpful, very handy. Even though it's quite a dry document, it is the governing document that all interested parties, of course, would refer to when it comes to all things governing ADA compliance. Hager has a keying system that is their keying system. You can buy locks from Hager to other manufacturers' keyways, but you can also buy it to the Hager keyway as well. And they have a small multiplex family and a very interesting document to go through if you're interested in their keying platform. Let's wrap up this video on camera. So in conclusion, a nice quality hinge. You certainly will see Hager hinges everywhere. A very common name for hinges is the Hager name. In fact, it's their namesake, Hager Hinge. They've been manufacturing residential and commercial builders hardware for a century and a half. They've been in business since the mid-19th century. I know that I have a catalog here in my library of a Hager product catalog from 1904, 1908, 1899, somewhere in that decade area. Just fascinating to be able to go back in time and see what commercial hardware looked like 120 years ago. So really fascinating. If you have any questions on the Hager BB1541, 3.5, 3.5, US 32D, obviously available in other finishes. They should be able to do a polished stainless on this as well. On a steel base, you'll be able to obtain plated finishes. Your brasses, your bronze, your nickels, satin polished, oil rubbed, things of that nature. Any questions on the BB1541 Hager hinge or any other Hager product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. If you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up. Please click subscribe as well, and even share the video with someone that you know. And if you have any questions for a future video, please send them our way and we will make every attempt to oblige. And thank you very much.